Welcome to the Tile Happy Hour. It is time to talk tile. I don't care where you are or where you're listening from, but if you love the tile and stone industry, you're going to find something interesting here, because that's what we do. Every week, we find a subject and talk about it. And when I say we, I mean my buddy over here, John Tedesco. How are you doing today? Good to see you.
Doing great, Craig. Cheers to everybody. It's the Tile Happy Hour. Grab a drink. Craig,
Yes.
You got a drink going there or what?
I got a drink.
All right, awesome. Yes, this is the Tile Happy Hour. We do this every week. We chat about tile, stone, LVT, glass, all sorts of stuff that's interesting, and a lot of stuff that's not interesting, and just got to figure out if it's worth your time. But we are here.
Depends on who you are, whether it's interesting or not. Hey, John, We've been trying around with our broadcast time later. How about we try to get some feedback on what time of day you can give us 30 to 45 minutes, what day of the week, what time of the day. We've kind of shifted it up the last few weeks. And I will say that the analytics in for that, they're all flat. So,
yeah, I think it's interesting. Well, as you know, we do this live, but also we put it out in clips and stuff like that. So people are watching and commenting at all different times. But if you happen to be one of the people that are watching this live and you feel like, hey, at night is better, Friday's better, whatever.
Let us know.
Tuesday night, let us know. Send us a message. We do get a whole bunch of messages. Thank you for all those messages. Thanks for all the fan mail that you sent to Craig. He appreciates it. But we really, we love being here. We love talking tile. We love talking the industry, talking to my friend, my cohort, Craig Cahoon here. We just love talking about the industry, and we decided to talk and share it with you. And that's what we're here. And
Absolutely.
we have an interesting topic today, kind of like Tile 101 almost, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So wherever you're watching from, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, YouTube, today we're going to kind of jump into it's really basic, but yet, I still have to ask questions about it. And that is, what is the difference between ceramic and porcelain, which is probably one of the most asked questions. But I want us to talk about that for sure, John. But I want to take it a step farther and think about, okay, well, we have our ceramic and porcelain, but we have other stuff like terrazzo tiles, terracotta tiles. We've talked about stone, I feel like, extensively, but maybe how does that all relate? I don't know. So where do we start, John?
Where we start is you're driving down the road and you see a store and it says tile store, right? It doesn't list all things that are under the roof. But so when you see that store, and hopefully it's a tile bar store, and you pull in, and if you're in Manhattan, there's no parking lot. I don't want to mislead anybody. You're on your own. But if you're walking down the street having your $9 cafe and you mocha loco and you walk in, you see tile store, you're expecting tile, but there's a lot more to talk about. So that's kind of how I want to frame this conversation. What's under the roof? What's there? So number one, but one of the most asked questions is, what's the difference, right, between porcelain and ceramic tile? And it's kind of an interesting answer, because porcelain tile, which is all the rage, is kind of a very particular product that's made in a certain way that falls under the umbrella of tile. So ceramic tile is really the word, and under that is a porcelain. So
that is probably one of the biggest misconceptions that I hear a lot. And it took me a while to understand that as a professional too. I was in commercial installation for 20 plus years, but I always and when you're reading specifications from architects, they would separate it specifically, ceramic and porcelain. But yet you're right. Ceramic is the granddaddy, the abuelo, the where it all started.
You know what? It depending on who you're speaking to in what context, is it important to delineate? Are you talking super technical, or are you not talking? So if you're a real estate agent showing someone a house and they're like, hey, we have some tile in the bathroom on all the walls, it doesn't matter if it's ceramic or porcelain. It's just tile all the walls. Like it's not paint. So here you have a nice bathroom that's easy to maintain. Now, if Craig and I are walking down, the aisles of a trade show in Italy, and someone says, this is porcelain, this is ceramic tile, we need to know that. We want to know that. And so it's the context really of the wording, where you use it and how you use it, where it becomes important. There are definite differences, but there's more similarities than there are differences, really.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the question everybody wants to know.
All right.
What is the difference between a typical ceramic and a typical porcelain? What is the defining line? The
defining line is the porosity, how dense it is, really. So the defining line, and actually it's funny, you would think that everyone knows porcelain to be very hard, right? Very strong. And that's why it's always good on the floor. And that's why ceramic tile is sometimes good on the floor. So if you just want to make if you're putting tile on your floor, you probably want it to be porcelain, right? Yeah. And if it's a ceramic, maybe back in the 80s, all floor tiles were ceramic. So it's not like it's bad, but porcelain's better. 8-track tapes, right? CDs, and now digital, right? So
what changed, do you think, from back when you started in the business and everything was ceramic and porcelain? And when I started, porcelain was the premium floor tile. What do you think changed?
The Italian technology of fast firing tile. So fast fire production really was the change of it. And the understanding that we could, instead of using a red clay and firing it at temperature X, we can use a different clay, a little more refined clay, fired at a higher temperature, but higher, like 1200 degrees Celsius, over 2000 degrees. And it kind of like fires it quickly, but makes it harder. So so what's changed was the R&D. They were able to research and develop a product, a ceramic tile that performed better. And so the test, which I find interesting, of if something is a porcelain, is not how hard it is, even though that is the end byproduct of a porcelain. Typically. The test of if something's porcelain is what, Craig? You know this answer.
Is the water absorption rate.
Yeah. So if it has a certain percentage of like 0.05%, whatever it is, that is the way you test if something's porcelain. But it's not. Most people would think, oh, let me see how hard it is, a test to see how hard it is.
Yeah, you think, and they're related. The water absorption rate is directly related to the density.
Oh, how so, Craig?
Well, the more dense a product, the less water can get absorbed. But the water absorption rate is the technical way you determine if it's a porcelain or a ceramic. And the answer to the question, if you're out searching on Google, hopefully this pops up in your Google search. A porcelain tile must be considered impervious, which was one of our keywords in a podcast previously. And impervious means it has an absorption weight. I can't talk. An absorption rate of less than 0.5%. Got it.
Right. So
that's the answer to the question. Let's go home.
Yeah. So what are the performance differences? So let me talk about that. Yes. Performance differences are is the hardness.
Yep.
And the absorption of it. Now, the interesting thing I should say is if you have a ceramic tile on the floor, 1985, it's a white 8-inch square tile, red clay, very absorbent clay, but the surface is glazed and it's white. And so when we talk about absorbency, you would think, oh, if ceramic is more absorbent, I don't want that, it's going to stain. No, that's not actually true, because the surface is glazed and fired. So there's no porosity on the surface on a ceramic tile. There's no porosity on the surface of a porcelain, minuscule, but for context of the conversation.
But the ceramic has to have that glaze. It's protection for it.
And there are some porcelains that don't need. Some porcelains can be so dense that you can create a color and a look without even glazing it. But there are glazed porcelains. That's just like a decision made in the R&D when you say, okay, we want a tile to look like onyx, or we want a tile to look like stone. How do we accomplish that? Do we need it to be glazed, unglazed? You know, how are we going to do that? But you have that option. Ceramic tile, you need it to be glazed. So the porosity really has to do with almost how much water comes from underneath, like the bottom of the tile when they do the test, right?
I think when they test it, they're normally testing an unglazed bisque for ceramic. So I've been to some of those testing facilities, and normally when you look around, you know, most of us are very familiar with Dow tiles 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. They used to ship those bisques unglazed all around for other people to make stuff out of them, and also for testing. So I think when you've got an official test, it's going to be an unglazed bisque, which is kind of what is comes out of the kiln, and nothing else is done to it.
Okay, Craig, tile nerd trivia question.
Okay.
You have that raw tile. It's not fired yet. It's probably porphyry. I forget what they call it. The clay. What's it called? In a
Pre-fired?
A clayman's term. If that's such a thing.
Clayman's term. I would call it fragile.
Okay. I'm looking for something different. I'm looking for the answer of greenware.
I'm not sure I know
Yes,
that term.
so if you go to a handmade tile factory and they're making tile in a factory and they're forming it and it's not fired yet, they'll call it greenware. Not because of the color, because it's green, like new, it's not fired yet.
Yeah.
So,
and I know that a lot of tile facilities, factories, that greenware, you know, like I said, it's very fragile, so it can break really easily before it's fired. A lot of their recycled content, that's easily recycled. That goes right back into the thing, and there's almost zero waste before it gets fired. I will say, you know, as far as green technology goes, our industry is one of the best in the world.
It's true because, you know, in general, tile is clay, water, and fire. Like, you know, oversimplifying it, but it's you know, it's like a slice of bread as opposed to like, you know, souffle or something. It's really pretty, not too many ingredients, and
they're all natural. They're all natural ingredients. The only thing I guess somebody would have maybe take concern with is we do use a lot of gas to get it fired, but yet we don't use as much gas as we used to because of the technology, and there's literally hardly any waste in the product because it's all natural.
Yeah, so talking about the production, you need heat, right? So,
heat.
So most of these facilities use gas. You know, when the Ukraine war started 3 years ago, there was an issue in Italy because they were getting gas from Ukraine, and it shot the prices up a lot. So, but do not fret, because the factories that make tile are really highly advanced in recapturing heat, being very efficient. I mentioned before, fast fire. So that means, you know, it's not firing it for 24 hours. It's 20 minutes, whatever the time it takes to fire. So it's very efficient. But we talked about this 2 years ago at Coverings, I believe, when we had the gentleman from the Italian factory, and he said, right, you need heat, but it's only for 20 minutes or whatever that time. And then the tile lasts forever. Forever.
Now, John, right? you're gonna be so proud of this transition because this was totally unplanned.
Love it. What is planned? We don't plan anything.
Yeah, that's right. Tell me about a tile product that doesn't use a kiln that is really ramping up in design today.
Well, in its OG
doesn't
form.
Have to. Yes.
Right.
Let me rephrase. It doesn't have to use a kiln.
Good question. So in its original form, there is a tile product that technically you don't fire. I mean, that's how it started. Was so you take clay, typically, well, red clay, because that's where the region it was used. Let's say Mexico, and they form by hand in like a mold, and you have a tile that's not fired. So you put it in an oven or a kiln and fire it. But if you're in Mexico hundreds of years ago, you probably didn't have a tile kiln. So what you did was you stuck it out in the field and let chickens walk all over it, and you have just discovered terracotta tile, right?
That's right.
And terracotta tile is crude in nature, crude in I don't mean nature like in its I don't mean trees nature. I mean in its the term of how sophisticated it is. It's just unrefined. And you mentioned this just now, Craig. What's the number one thing being promoted on the Tile Bar website today?
Terracotta tile.
Yeah,
it is making a comeback, and there are still some that are being made with just the heat of the sun. I mean, that is done. Obviously, on a large scale and a large consuming population like the Americas, we need something a little more available. And so the terracotta tile is really making a comeback. It's strange to me as a contractor why somebody would want to use this type of material. I love the look of it, but John, tell me, it's got some attributes to it that make it a little unique in the tile and stone industry.
Well, real terracotta is being it unglazed because it's just a raw product. You can and should do something to it after you install it. You just don't want to put it down and leave it untreated. So the disadvantage of it is it's very porous, it's soft, and if it was out in the field in Mexico, how hot could that have gotten? 100+ degrees, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a very durable product. But we always talk, and on this show, the Tile Happy Hour, about expectations, right? Manage expectations. So what are you looking to accomplish? If you have a Southwest Santa Fe home and you want this real rugged look, and you're okay if the tile chips if you drop something on the floor, so it's all about expectations. So then what you could do is you could seal it. You can even change the color of it. You can make it dark. You can make it brown. Typically it's brown or kind of an orangey reddish look. And you could actually top coat it. You could put beeswax on it. You could put linseed oil. You could put all this sorts of stuff. It's not for the faint of heart. It literally only want to use a real terracotta when you're building something extremely authentic style that you're going to be an Architectural Digest. They're going to come and shoot your house, and it has to be like very authentic to the period that they're doing the episode on. So, but when people ask about terracotta, they usually don't mean I want the original OG. They just like the look.
Yeah. Well, I think even I remember back in the day, I don't remember which company it was, a grout company had a grout color called terracotta. So they were actually, using that visual of that burnt clay look as a color. And I don't know. I think you and I may have talked about this before. I think that's kind of maybe where quarry tiles look came from when you're thinking about a ceramic quarry.
Yeah. So I look at quarry tile. I always coined it this. It's technically maybe not correct. I call it American terracotta. So terracotta being a clay, it's unglazed when it's delivered. And so is quarry tile, but it's more refined. It's kind of like how a regular ceramic tile went to porcelain. A terracotta went to a quarry. They took that clay, and maybe they got a little more refined clays, a little more particular, and they fired at a higher temperature. So now you have kind of a 10th generation terracotta tile is really probably what a quarry tile is. And for those of us old enough to remember, like a Burger King floor, like these fast food places used to use quarry tile on the floor.
That's all they have. They still do. I mean, I actually, when I say we, I mean Tile Bar. We just brought on a line of quarry tile, and from what I hear, it's selling very well. And I know that I'm not sure what the demographics are for that, but I'm assuming that it's probably somebody that maybe wants that terracotta look, but wants the advantages of the more durability and higher.
I could tell you the answer to that. It's almost all commercial. Almost all commercial. All the inquiries for terracotta, for quarry tile, have been commercial.
Have they?
Yeah. I mean, of course, that's in my world because I'm not in the showroom talking to a homeowner. I'm dealing with the trade, but I can tell you firsthand that I see all the activity is it Elements? I called Element. I forget what it's called.
I'm not sure what the name of
a quarry line is, and it's become quarry used to be like dirt cheap.
Yeah,
it used to be. I mean, that's the reason. That's the reason. Like the
I
fast food
remember
places
you could get it for 99 cents a foot.
Yeah, you mentioned Dow tile. I think of American Only and Canyon Red.
Yep.
It was the color, and then Dow had another color.
Diablo Red was Dow's version.
So
but yeah, 6x6 of the basic quarry, and they call it quarry textures. American Only call it quarry naturals, pressed quarry tile. It was in the back of the house in a commercial building that's outside of the public, in everywhere. And you could get it for $99 a square foot. 99 cents a square foot. We'd buy the install racks. Do you remember seeing those? The wire 3x5 racks. Man, we could flat out lay some quarry 6x6 or 8x8 if you wanted to, but 6x6 was more popular in my world. And I've sold
a lot of those racks where you order it custom. You say, okay, I have a 6-inch tile from Dow. I want a 1/8 inch grout space. It's going to be offset. And then you get this rack and you throw it down. Those are the good old days. So
American Tile Rack. I wonder if they're still in business. If American Tile Rack, if you're still in business, they were the only ones I knew of. You'd buy it and then you'd use it for one job. And then the stupid helper on the job would sit it on its edge and it get bent and you're done. Useless. You're done.
So it's interesting. It made me think of, I remember visiting a restaurant with a Italian factory rep, and we went to an Italian restaurant, right? He probably wanted to get steak, and I took him to an Italian restaurant. But anyway.
Yeah, that didn't seem like a good idea.
Yeah. Anyway, there was a dish that I think it was puttanesca, which was, it's like a dish that people make when they were poor in Italy. But now it's like everyone wants it. And it's like $30 a plate, right? So, and the guy's like, this is like for poor people. Like, that's how it originated. So quarry tile used to be that like really cheap, basic product. Now it's like $9 a foot, $10. It's like,
is it really? What are we selling it for? Let me look.
Yeah, take a look. But there's a reason for that. The reason is that it is more refined. So it's not your grandma's quarry tile. It has improved. The colors have improved. But also there are less people producing it. It's not like where every single, it's not like you go to a supermarket and there's tasty bread and there's Wonder Bread and all these that's not like it really, is it elemental? Yeah.
Elemental quarry tile.
So now if you do notice when you're talking about
the abrasive.
Yeah, look at the pricing. So $6 to $11 a foot. So the difference, why would that? If you had a porcelain tile, Craig, and it was gray or black or white, it's the same price. Now, why is it different in quarry tile? What would you say? You see the Raven Gray price?
Demand.
No. The raw material. No.
Raven Gray is pretty. Yeah, Raven Gray is not a very, like you said, it's not very. It's probably in demand, but it's not as plentiful.
Got it. That's a good guess, but you're wrong. So it's the color is derived from the pigments in the quarry tile, and unlike a glaze, which is like, I think when you're doing a glaze, no matter what color you want to accomplish, unless it's like a super red or like a cobalt blue, the cost of the raw materials are the same. When you're talking about a quarry tile, that color is throughout the whole body of the product. And a black happens to have more, let's just simplify it, more costly ingredients to hit that black. And so it impacts the price, where if it was just a topical glaze, it probably wouldn't make a difference.
It's kind of like all red tile is.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, it's commercial, but it's $6 to $11 a foot. It used to be $1 to $3 a foot at the most. And it's in demand. It's a certain look, and it really, so we talked about terracotta, we talked about quarry, we talked about ceramic, we talked about porcelain tile. And we did say that, everything is kind of under the ceramic umbrella. So and then there's something that's a hybrid tile stone, like it's a tile, but it's stone. What can that category be, Craig? With little chips in it.
The only category I can think fits into that is terrazzo, and we're talking about original terrazzo. You know, of course, we got terrazzo look tiles that are porcelain that are made to look like terrazzo, but actual terrazzo tile is it's a great product. I grew up in the tile industry in a company that our big part of our business was pouring terrazzo floors, and terrazzo floor, as flooring goes, is the most cheap to own over time because of its maintenance. It lasts forever. They've been doing terrazzo forever. I think we did a show on it months ago. But terrazzo tile is the same process. You're pouring a base of cement or resin. You're adding in your chips, which is most often marble chips, but you can have some unique stuff, some glass. And then you're casting it, you're cutting it, boxing it, and selling it as tiles. And that's a big seller today. And it's durable. I mean, it's not quite as water absorbent as porcelain, but yet it is very, very durable.
What I find interesting, and as you're talking about it, I'm thinking it's a category that didn't start out as tile, right? You said you poured it. So the history of terrazzo is not tile, right? It's not, it has a different lineage. You know, it was poured, you know, in say Italy, they put cement down and then they have marble chips, either from a byproduct of making statues or doing something, or they take stone and crumble it up and throw it in the ground just to jazz it up a little, strengthen it a little, make it look, you know, nice. Maybe grind it down. So terrazzo, I don't know, is there any other category that we have? I guess you could put stone sort of in that category. Like if you take a block of stone, you cut a slab of it and you install it on a wall, and someone said, let's make it in smaller pieces. Similar maybe, but terrazzo is unique in and of itself, where it started as not a tile. Yeah, I think that
agreed. Yeah,
terrazzo is hot in look and style. We have real terrazzo, meaning terrazzo tiles that are in cement base, resin base, like you mentioned, and then we have porcelains that look like terrazzo, and they're all performing really, really well. Hospitality wise, they love terrazzo. It's sometimes at a budget for, you know, for a commercial, but if it's application, but if it's a restaurant, it's, you know, that's the feature floor, then it's in budget. So it really depends.
Yeah, it's a little different maintenance on the long-term scale for terrazzo tile, especially cement terrazzo. You got to kind of treat it like a stone floor, but it performs very well. That's why if you go to any airport across the country, in a developed country, most of them are going to have poured terrazzo walkways, and it's just because they last. They can hold up to the traffic.
And it's really a hybrid product, right? Because it's really like cement, let's say, and stone, right? So it's kind of like two products put together. Now, when someone's designing a new airport, right, you're sitting down, and then the mayors are sitting down with the architects and the developers, and are like, because we've seen tile in airports, but the main one of the advantages of a poured terrazzo floor in an airport. Can you give me one? There's many, but I'm going to see if you're thinking the one I'm thinking. It has to do with experience.
Experience. Oh, you're talking about the rolling of your luggage. You don't have the click, clunk, click, clunk, click, clunk.
Yes, the clickety clack. So think about it, folks. You have a luggage that's 49.8 pounds, right? You're pulling it, and it's a tile. You're in, I don't know, an airport that has quarry tile with a 1/2-inch grout joint. Right? And it's like click, 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 click.
It is definitely an ASMR experience, if you know what that means.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that you go on TikTok and do ASMR. It's like sensory something something, so you can do that. But yeah, I travel for work, and quite often, and it seems like anytime I go out of the country, most of the airports that I go into in these smaller countries, they all have tile floors, which is what you used to do. And yeah, some of them with the small format tiles, it's like, just pick your suitcase up, just pick it up.
Yeah, and now you have 900 people, like, you know, walking by you, and it's
it's all
really
guys.
annoying.
Yeah.
So I think that our audience, Craig, will have a newfound appreciation for Terracotta when you're in an airport and you have that luggage, and it's very soothing. It's like a zzz, you just sailing along, heading out to the sunny skies to a beach somewhere, and you're not getting the sensory overload of clickety clack on the floor. And so that's another reason to do Terracotta. Now you could do a tile, porcelain, bigger format, smaller grout joints. And you know, there's plenty of successful airports that use porcelain. We're not discouraging you from that, but definitely not real terracotta unbaked in an airport. That'd be bad.
Absolutely not.
I wonder if there's an airport in Mexico if that has the terracotta.
A great conversation. I hope that this answered some of those questions about, you know, what's the difference? Like you said, when you walk into the tile shop, or if you're going to one of those big box stores that we don't recommend you go to tilebar.com. But when you're picking out your tile, what are the difference between the types of the tile? That big umbrella of ceramic, what does it cover? What's the how do I choose what's right? So hopefully you learned something today. If you got questions, we'd love to answer them. We always answer all of our questions. If you get lucky, we may answer them on air, or if you have a topic that you want us to address, let us know. We'll be glad to be flexible with that.
Yeah, one of the themes that Craig and I always kind of get across is always talk to a professional, not just tile business. Whatever you're doing, talk to a professional. You know, home centers can have and do have good products. Some of it really is crap. And I'm not just talking tile. You know, if you're buying an electrical part that looks like something you saw in an electrical store, but then you open it up and one part's plastic and the other part's metal, or an appliance is a classic example, right? The appliance at a home center was maybe value engineered to bring it down $11 less than its competitor, and they changed some parts out. So you have to really, so I would recommend that you speak to a professional, be it an appliance, be it tile, whatever it may be, lighting, and talk to them about your expectations for the product. Then talk to them about you know, the use of your product, and then talk to them about budget. And they'll give you the advice if they're honest and they're professionals themselves. So that would be my parting advice here in the Tile Happy Hour. We do this every week, Craig. Love talking to you. Love seeing all you out there. Thanks for all the fan mail that Craig gets. I get to open up all his mail and read all his fan mail, you know, but it's fun. And send us a question live. Send us a question, even if you're watching this as an encore presentation on social media. And I really enjoy being here. So this is John Tedisco, and I'd like to wish you peace, health, and happiness.
Thanks, John, for taking the time. Let's keep learning together and tile the world.